Salutations, readers. Welcome to or welcome back to the City Girl Writer channel. My name is Nkechi, and for today we're doing a double up featured wrap-up video. So, I am going to be talking about the books that I read in May and June, so that means I'll talk about my progress and my success, actually, for the Asian Readathon. If you did not know, I did a TBR video in May for the Asian Readathon. I'll let y'all know about that, and then also books that I read in June. So, first up, just some very quick things. I've read a total of 13 books in the past 2 months. I read 6 in May, 7 in June. So I have actually also completed the Asian Readathon as well. I went through all the prompts and then have an extra. And then I also read about the same number of books in June. May was actually a pretty rough month, quality-wise, in the Asian Readathon. There's one of the reasons why I didn't do a wrap-up video for May, because honestly, May was just not that really good, and I just didn't want to make a sole video on it. So now we're here doing a double feature. So yeah, because May, the average rating was 3.58. Yeah, it was not very good. There's not a single book on that for that readathon that I gave 5 stars. So that really did suck. And also I was going through things also mentally, so that didn't help either. And I'm pretty sure I also went through a reading slump, so that also contributed as well. But in June, I think I definitely recovered from that reading slump. Mentally, things have just been kind of a little bit wonky, but I think it's been overall been okay, which is also why I think my reading has been a little bit better as well. Because the average rating for June was 4.11, which is actually like pretty good considering what May was. So I'm just like, okay, all right, so we're here. I'll take it, you know. I'm gonna take it. But this wrap up is gonna be structured differently than how I'm used to doing it, because honestly, y'all, talking about 13 books in one video is actually a lot, especially when I don't normally read that much, and to talk about all of that in order that I've read is actually a little bit taxing. So for this video, we're gonna do a different way of wrap-up video. Actually, it's kind of reminiscent to how Jan from Jan Agaton does her wrap-up videos. Now, if you do not know, Jan does her wrap-up videos by doing like the reread, rewrite, burn tag, but with the books that she's read that month. So she has a little Stitch mug. In my case, I have a little Stitch candle holder, and she has the little pieces of paper that has the book titles, and she'll pick 3 at a time. And out of those 3, she'll say, this is a book I will reread, this is a book that I will rewrite, and this is a book that I will burn. And that's what I'm gonna do, because I cannot be inclined, and also I have opinions on books, and also I think it's actually kind of fun to do it this way. So let's try it. So yes, I do indeed I don't have a Stitch mug, because again, I only have a candle holder, and I do have all 13 books that I've read here, and then I have my little Stitch pillow over there as some emotional support. Let me just get the things. So what do we have here? Princess Floralinda and the 40-Flight Tower. Right, this is by Tamsin Muir. And I read this one via audio. This one is actually a fantasy novella that Tamsin Muir wrote, and I think it was published by Subterranean Press. And I read it via audio, and Warwick Quirk narrated it. But that's one book. What's the next one? Oh, This Is How You Lose the Time War. This is co-authored by Amal Al-Mokhtar and Max Gladstone. This is a book that I read for the Asian Readathon. I forgot what prompt it was, but yeah, if you don't know, this is a sci-fi, sapphic romance novella. We have like alternate worlds, and we're moving through time, sound like that. Yeah, so that's the second one. Third book. Oh, Silver Under Nightfall. This is by Bryn Chapeko. I read this one physically, just like also the This Is How You Lose a Time War. This is also for the Asian Readathon. This is a queer fantasy horror mystery, at least according to Storygraph. This one has a lot with vampires and the vampire politics. We're going with vampires and humans and stuff. And it's also a polyamorous relationship in this one too. Okay, so out of these 3 here, I'm going to burn Princess Floralinda and the 40-Flight Tower. This is actually just the one. I think I'm just going to burn this one because honestly, I did enjoy the reading experience of it. I do enjoy the novella itself. However, I only gave it 3.5 stars. I think it was a good novella. Well, it's just fine as a story itself, because it's really just like it's like really based on like fairy tale stuff, a little bit like, not quite Dance with Distress. I mean, it is kind of like that setup, but Tamsin Muir subverts that in the sense that Princess Floralinda just learns to save herself pretty much in the end of the day, which, like, that's fine, but also in terms of mirror, I kind of expected more, to be honest. And also, since more were narrated the characters' voices, they just reminded me of, like, the Locked Tomb characters. Specifically with Gideon and Harrow, a little bit of the dynamic between Floralinda and this one other character. So, honestly, I would rather just burn this one, because I'm like, honestly, I could live without this. We don't need this. And then I would rewrite Silver Under Nightfall, because as much as I really enjoyed it, I actually give this one 4 stars, and it was really surprising me, because the thing that really made me so happy about this is that the romance, like the romance between Remy, Laura Malik, and Lady Song, like that whole polyamorous relationship is literally the highlight of the whole book for me. So yeah, I'm here for it, okay? I was here for that polyamorous relationship, and I will rewrite it because I felt like the way that things ended wasn't quite as sharp. I feel like there's something about the ending here that's kind of missing, but it's a thing. But then again, I think it's because it's trying to set up for the sequel, and I do know there will be a sequel, so that's fine in a sense, but also just like, I feel like we could maybe fix some things a little bit with this ending, and maybe polish things here and there with some other things in between, in the middle there. But other than that, it's still a really great read. I highly recommend it if you're looking for vampires, polyamorous relationships. Definitely go with Silver Under Nightfall. And the characters are so likable. Like, Remy was like a favorite character, okay? So yeah, rewrite, which means that I would reread This Is How You Lose a Time War, which makes sense because honestly, this is a novella. I could easily reread it. And I definitely I heard that the audiobook is really good. I didn't read this one via audio, but I definitely think that the audiobook would be really good. And also, I really did enjoy this one. I think I give this one 4.25, 4.5, but I think it went more down to like a 4.25. I really did like this one, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you're interested with characters, especially a sapphic yearning. And honestly, I really much learned with this novella that I do actually like it when we have some yearning, and also when these two characters, Red and Blue, are like writing letters to each other. That was actually like the big highlight there for that book. And honestly, and also because of the fact that the sci-fi elements were really a little bit confusing for me. But other than that, this is a really great novella. All right, round 2. Let's get some more. Oh, we have Lakelore by Anna Marie McLemore. This one is YA magical realism. At first, I actually thought it was YA fantasy, but this is actually magical realism, which makes way more sense. And I read this one via audio. There are 2 narrators. Great job. Talk more about it later. Let's get another one. Oh, Akata Witch by Nydia Corford. This is actually a YA fantasy. And this one takes place, I think, in modern day Nigeria. And yeah, and it's also reminiscent of just like kind of a book I would have read in like middle school, high school, around there. Definitely talk more about that later. Let's get to the next one. On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. Okay, this one is a queer contemporary lit fic book. It's actually kind of short. I did read this one via audio. Ocean Vlong narrates it, which actually was a really good idea, because this one just really felt like a personal story. But anyways, concerning all that with all these books, the book I'm going to burn, unfortunately, will be On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. I am sorry. It sounds so harsh to say that the story like this that feels so personal, emotionally moving and driven and stuff. Even like it felt semi-autobiographical, and I'm saying to burn it. I am sorry, but this one I gave like 3.25 stars. I was really debating, but I think I settled finally recently on a 3.25, because as much as this was emotional kind of a read, I wasn't particularly moved. I could tell that this is really more, I think it's more structurally, it's where I'm like, huh? Because you don't know, this is really the kind of story where it's in the form of letters, and I personally did not, okay, get away, fly, please go away. But I personally did not really like the structure that was more, it kind of reminded me of more of poetry, which I'm just like, this honestly would have worked better as a poetry collection than like than a collection of letters from a character named Little Dog to his mother. And also, there's a lot of content warnings for this one too, so it's pretty dark as well. So if you do read this one with caution. Like, please do. Please take care of yourself with this one. This one's a heavy read as well. But I personally was not that moved. So yeah, I do feel bad for saying that, but honestly, I I didn't feel that moved. I still recommend it though. It's still a good book. It just wasn't a book that worked for me. And that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, that's a burn. And then I think I will rewrite Akata Witch by Nightfall. This one is actually the first in a series, and this is definitely a series that like I really would have deeply appreciated a lot more when I was in middle school and high school. Like this is the kind of story that I wish I had read at that time, because we're following a Nigerian American girl named Sunny who's albino, who she was born in the United States, but then she moved to Nigeria, I think when she was really young and stuff, but she has this weird dichotomy, the fact that, she's American, but really she's also Nigerian as well, because she's lived in Nigeria, even though she was born in the States. And also she discovers that she has magic, and she has this ragtag group of friends now. There's like 3 other characters that actually were really, really fun. Like, I actually really like all 4 of them together. They're such fun, likable characters, and they have to learn out these powers so they can defeat some magical evil. But I will rewrite it in the sense that it is YA fantasy, but it's an older YA fantasy. And there were a few things I was just like, I'm not sure about this. And I wasn't sure if like, okay, this seems fine, but it's really like the magic kind of part, the fantasy. I'm just like, yeah, this is still really, really good, but there's just some things here and there that I'm just like, what's going on? And I did read this one via audio, but I did have the physical library copy with me, so I was able to hybrid read it. But I was looking at it, I'm just like, this is not adding up here. And also, even though this was YA, it actually read more like older middle grade, which I can't tell is because of the fact of how old it is, or is because the fact that it just supposed to be the really, really young side of YA, because it really read like the younger side of YA. Which honestly makes sense, because the characters in here are like 12, so like, it makes sense, but also just like, why wasn't this middle grade? But then again, there have been some darker elements in here, so I can definitely see a little bit why it would be bumped up to YA, just on the younger side. But yeah, this is definitely a series I will definitely continue on with, but definitely some things I will rather rewrite here and there for sure. So there's that, which means that I would reread Lakelore, and hell yeah, I will reread this one. I read this one via audio. I had no idea what this book was about, and honestly, I still don't even know what was in the synopsis, because I didn't check the synopsis before reading this one via audio. And y'all, that book moved me emotionally, okay? I was in tears. I was in my feelings. I felt like, damn, this is so healing as a queer person, as a young queer person, okay? Like, this book follows 2 non-binary or gender fluid characters who are also neurodivergent, and they pretty much just learn to they learn how to be friends with each other, even be someone, even maybe have romantic interest potentially as well. But they start to learn that, like the kind of person that way you connect with one of the queer person is also neurodivergent, and just to be seen, just to see each other. That feeling was just like so hopeful and wholesome. I loved it. But yeah, definitely look up Comfortable Warnings over Lakelore. If I remember correctly, I think there's definitely something with there's definitely homophobia. There is also racism, because these also are the 2 brown, non-binary, gender fluid people as well. I think they're both Mexican American, if I remember correctly. So yeah, there's racism, homophobia. I think there's also ableism as well. And I think there's a few other things, but I honestly cannot remember the top of my head. I'm sorry. I don't know, but I really do need to reread this one, because I really want to annotate it and just have the physical copy on my shelf. This is a need. This is actually a need to reread. Now let's get to round 3. Let's get to the other books here. Oh, How Do You Live by Jinzaburo Yoshino. This is a classic middle grade book that's translated from Japanese to English recently. This actually was originally published in 1937. And yeah, this actually is going to have its own dedicated book review, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But I'll let y'all know my thoughts for it when we get to other books and things. Unwieldy Creatures by Addie Sai. This is actually a queer, biracial, non-binary retelling of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was a great time, y'all. This was also a great time. Ooh, this is hard. Ooh, no. Ooh, this is getting hard. Okay, let's figure out what our last one is. Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandello. This is a queer sci-fi novella, and I read this one via audio. So this one's interesting. Okay, all right. Even though I really did enjoy these ones, I'm going to burn Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandello. Even though I did give this one 3.754 stars, I'm kind of in between, but I'm gonna burn it solely for the fact that the last third of this novella didn't make any sense to me. I don't really remember what actually happened in the last third, and I can't tell if this is the fault of the novella itself or this is my fault. Honestly, this could be like an 80% my fault, 20% of fault of the book. So maybe it's that kind of sense, but for me personally, especially with the choices that I have here, I'm burning Feed Them Silence. I do recommend it though, but if you don't know, this is really about animal testing, ethics when it comes with the advancement of science. There's also a troubling marriage between two women in here. And I feel like the way that it ended just really left me kind of confused and also just like not what I expected and not a good way. I do like it when books surprise me, but I don't like when they surprise me like this. So I'm just like, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna burn this book, sorry. Now as far as which one to reread or to rewrite, I'm going to rewrite Unwieldy Creatures. If you do not know, again, this is a Frankenstein retelling, queer, biracial, non-binary. Yeah, there's 3 PVs, mostly is focusing on a character named Plum, and then the Dr. Frankenstein character, and then we also do have some chapters of Frankenstein's creature as well, just like the original. I want to say rewrite because there is a part in the ending that I felt like we didn't get some resolution with. I just want a resolution for one thing. I did rate this one 4.75 stars, so honestly, it is really, really good. I recommend it. I highly recommend it. Although this is a horror one. This is queer, but it's also horror. So y'all really need, if you're going to read this, please look up content warnings, because there's a lot of heavy stuff. There is domestic abuse, there's child abuse, there are a few instances of misgendering. I can't remember any other content warnings, but there are other content warnings, so definitely look that up. And also, I do have a video coming up. We're featuring this book that I'll also talk more about it. So yeah, just again, I really do recommend this, but definitely tread with caution, and I will rewrite because the ending, I felt like we didn't have some clear resolutions with things, and I wanted them to be resolved within the narrative explicitly. I know why, I have an idea why it was not, but I need this to be resolved. Okay, so that's that, which means that leaves How Do You Live to be reread, and I definitely want to reread this one. I actually want to get my own copy of this one, because just like Unwieldy Creatures, I borrowed it from the library physically. This one is actually a Japanese classic. It follows a young schoolboy named Copper, taking place in pre-war Japan, and his uncle writes some notebook entries for his nephew Copper to one day read, and it's pretty much just learning about, how do you live, like, how do you want to live your life and stuff, while also having like a pretty slow paced slice of life story. I did also rate this one 4.75 stars. I do feel like it was a little bit too slow, and I did feel a little bit bored when I got to the middle. And also the writing style could be seen as a little bit like, okay, I kind of get the point. It's very insightful, but I also kind of get the point kind of thing. But I still really, really deeply appreciate this, and I do see why this is a classic, and I also see why Hayao Miyazaki would want to adapt this book as his final film. And I'll definitely talk more about that in that video later on. All right, now we're on to round 4. There's only 4 left in here, but so that means we're going to have an extra one left. So that'll be like, I'll just do whatever kind of thing. Oh, right. The Deep Sky by Yume Kitase. This one I got as an advanced listening copy, thanks to Macmillan Audio / Flatiron Books. This one actually comes out July 11th. This is an adult sci-fi mystery / thriller book. Talk more about that later. Let's get to the other ones. I am worried about what's left. Out of the Moon Gods by Su Lin Tan. This one is an adult fantasy romance or adult romantic fantasy. I don't know whenever these kind of genres mix together, what do you call it? I think this case is a romantic fantasy. This one is based on Chinese mythology, specifically on the Mid-Autumn Festival. We're following the moon goddess Chang'e's daughter, Xingyin, and yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This was literally my most anticipated release of 2023. I already have a dedicated reading vlog about this one, but yeah, let's get through this one. This is gonna be interesting. Okay, I'm burning Dawn of the Moon Goddess. I am burning solely for the fact that this, out of this bunch here, is the lowest rated book. This is actually the lowest rated book I've read in the past 2 months. It is 2 stars. I did not really enjoy my time with this one. The only thing I enjoyed about Dawn of the Moon Goddess is for the fact that I read it in 4 days. Despite it being over nearly 500 pages long, and especially for adult fantasy, like, what? I read that thing in 4 days physically with no audiobook? Who am I? But it was really because of the fact that writing style was so easy for me to read, which is in a way good for just getting through with the book, but not great in the sense that the writing was reading younger than I thought it was. And I almost thought to myself, like, maybe fantasy romance is just not my thing. But honestly, I do want to try again with some other fantasy romance books. But yeah, Dawn of the Moon Goddess was just not it. And also, it really didn't help either that the romance aspect in here, the whole love triangle thing, yeah, I don't care for it. I did not care for it. All I cared about was Xingyin finding a way to save her mother. Okay, that is it. That's all I cared about. Which, for the most part, the main character was focused on that. But, you know, we see Liwei and Wenji coming in the mix, and I'm just like, okay, can we move along? I'm not having fun here. I really wish I could have given this book higher rating, but no, it was really irritating me. I did not care for this love triangle. I don't care about nobody's feelings. I did not care that Liwei liked Xingyin or Wenji liked Xingyin or the fact that Xingyin liked both of these characters. I don't give a fucking damn, okay? Like, can we move on? And also, the character was so wishy-washy. She's just like, I can't make a decision. I'm like, dang, I don't know if I should go with this path or that path. And I'm like, girl, just pick a path. Pick one, and then we'll deal with the consequences. Like, can we move on? Jeez. And also, it didn't help the fact that either that this honestly really read like a standalone. Like, if you went in with the fact that maybe not expecting much for the romance, or you just don't care for the romance at all, this really worked well. It's just being a standalone. Like, I don't care about how Book 2, Heart of the Sun Warrior, is going to do with the fact with this love triangle. Okay, I don't give a damn. I'm not reading the rest of the series, even though I do own both of the books. In fact, at this point, I've already unhauled them. I giving them but that whole duology to my younger sibling. But long story short, I am burning Dawn of the Moon Goddess. And then for rewriting, I would like to kind of see if I could rewrite The Deep Sky, but also I don't think I would be able to, but I'm just saying just as a rewrite because I don't want to reread it either. The Deep Sky is it's actually dual timeline because it's like a ship of, I think, 38 people who was in deep space for like 10 years to get to his new planet, and most of them, I think, either most or some of them are pregnant, and they're trying to, like, you know, like, the premise is a way of, like, how the world leaders want to spend money on sending humanity to a whole different planet instead of trying to save our own current planet. I think that's the kind of the whole point of the book. That means that's one aspect of the book for sure, but also the fact that, well, the ship itself actually went off course because someone did something to damage the ship that killed 2 people, and we're off course in space, and that is horrifying. That is terrifying. I would never want to do that. I'm like, why are we here? So yeah, I definitely see that as a thriller for sure, but the mystery part, like who actually done it, like who's responsible for this betrayal, I didn't give a damn. I did not care for it at all. I didn't want to figure it out. I didn't care for it. And I did get it as an ALC, so I did read it via audio, so maybe I would have seen it maybe a little bit differently, maybe if it was physical, if I read it with my eyeballs, but probably not. Because honestly, I was not caring, unfortunately. But I did give this one 3 stars. And I'm definitely in the minority of it because I have seen some early reviews actually do highly praise this one, whether it's a 4-star or even a 5-star. So I'm definitely in the minority for this book. But hey, check it out if it still is something that you're interested in for sure. It comes out July 11th, so there's that. And then now we have Yellowface by R. Kwong. This is the highest rated one. This is a 3.5 stars. In my reading vlog, I was really conflicted on this reading experience because of how the fact that we are literally in this white woman's head the entire time, and I really, really, really not want to be in her head. It was actually emotionally draining for me. And that actually was pretty much the bulk of my entire reading experience, if you really watched that vlog. But, you know, if you haven't seen it, please, I recommend it. I'll put it in the cards, description. But yeah, this one I actually do want to reread it, but not anytime soon. Because I do think that maybe if I give myself some time away from it, I think I might appreciate the book more. Because I was really coming into this like, oh yeah, this is going to be a new favorite of mine. it's gonna be 5 stars, only for me to end up it being 3.5. And I'm just like, how is it gonna be disappointing, but you're not quite a disappointment? You know, it's disappointing, but not disappointment, because it's still a good book. I still recognize this as a good book. It can definitely spark conversations for sure, not just in the publishing industry, but also cultural appropriation, racism in the publishing industry, the way how the publishing industry also just fails authors more often than not, and also for the fact that how, you know, even the satire in this one, you could probably also discuss with someone if they do also are well versed in with reading satirical or consuming satirical media. Also about like who gets to write what kind of story, because everyone in this book is wrong in some kind of way. Okay, not June. June, she's like evil in this one, but everyone in this book is just wrong. Okay, everyone's wrong. So there's no good person here. Okay, everyone is like messed up in some way, shape, or form. I definitely want to reread it, and also probably reread it without the audiobook, because actually, it's not like the audiobook was bad. Actually, no, the audiobook was actually really, really good. It really made it clear on how delusional June really was. Okay, she was delusional, and that narrator did a great job. But I do think that if I wasn't feeling like I was actively immersed into her head, and I was a little bit more distant, I probably could have maybe just personally enjoyed it more, or maybe greatly appreciated the satirical approach to this kind of story. Or maybe reading satirical books is not my thing. But honestly, I do want to read another satirical novel to be really sure if this is really it. Or is this just because of the fact that R.F. Kuang is maybe not the kind of author I really want for a satire? I don't know. But I'm still ruling my thoughts on this book in particular. Alright, now we're in the final round, which is really just one book, and I already know what this one book is, but I'm still gonna, like, pick it up anyways, because why not? And it's The Last Tale of the Flower by Roshani Chokshi. This was actually a favorite of the month for May. This is actually what made me like, yeah, I'm so glad I ended up reading this one. Because when I heard about it going around and people talked about it, it seemed like, ooh, maybe it's not gonna be up my alley. I'm like, maybe not, but then I'm like, no. Let me just lower my expectations, because honestly, for a lot of people, they thought that this was going to be like a fantasy book, when really it's a gothic fairy tale. And fairy tale is somewhat fantasy when you really think about it, especially since this book has direct references to fairy tales, myths, and stuff. So I can definitely see why it could be a little bit seen into fantasy, but really it's more literary. It's definitely a big romance element, because we do following characters who are in a marriage, for sure, and also having secrets and betrayal. But it's not just marriage, though. There's also friendship in here, a very toxic friendship. So also, look up content warnings for this one, because, oh gosh, it is dark, y'all. It's a gothic fairy tale for sure. Okay, dark stuff happens in here. And I rated this one 4.5 stars. I really, really did enjoy this one. But yeah, this one is a book that I think this would be a reread. Because I wasn't sure it was like, this is a reread or rewrite. But honestly, I think this would be a reread. I really did enjoy this one. And I definitely want to reread it again. I did annotate it as well. And I want to reread it. Like, it was such a great time. And also, there was a twist towards the end that I did not see coming. I was like, wait a minute. And now that I know what this twist is, I definitely want to reread it to see if, like, I can see the lead up to it as well, because I really had no idea that this twist was coming. No idea whatsoever. Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much my entire wrap up. I definitely do like doing this kind of a wrap up with this many books, because it makes it more fun, way more interesting. So yes, thank you, Jan from Agaton, for pretty much inspiring me to do a wrap up like this, because yes, and also I'm definitely gonna do a wrap up. If I ever do another wrap up like this, we're definitely using the Stitch candle holder, because yes. But anyways, that's pretty much all the books I read in the past 2 months. That's all 13 of them. So y'all let me know down in the comments, what books have y'all been reading? You like it? Like the video, comment on your thoughts, subscribe if you want to follow for more stuff from me. If you've made it this far and you're not totally sure what to comment down below, comment a flower emoji in honor of the last of the Flower Bride. Because why not? Anyways, thank you all again for coming on to this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.